What if one familiar name was not just a reference, but a warning? On The Bold and the Beautiful, the sudden mention of Quinn Fuller has sparked major speculation, and for good reason. In soaps, names are rarely dropped without purpose. And if Quinn really is on the verge of returning, her comeback may not bring nostalgia alone. It may bring heartbreak, chaos, and a disaster no one sees coming. The biggest reason fans are paying attention right now is simple. Quinn was mentioned again, and on a show like The Bold and the Beautiful, that kind of detail often matters more than it seems. Soap operas have a habit of testing the waters before a return. They remind the audience of a character. They let a name float back into conversation. They plant the memory first. Then, once viewers start asking questions, the show has already created anticipation without officially promising anything. That is exactly why Quinn's sudden reappearance in dialogue feels so intriguing. Because Quinn is not some random former character with no emotional footprint. She left an impression, a messy one, a powerful one. She was unpredictable, passionate, manipulative, vulnerable, and at times impossible to ignore. Whether viewers loved her or hated her, Quinn always brought energy to the screen. She made scenes feel unstable. She made relationships feel dangerous. And that is what makes this mention so effective. It reminds fans of what the canvas is missing. Not just Quinn herself, but the kind of disruption she brings with her. The kind of woman who does not quietly walk back into town. The kind of woman whose return changes the emotional temperature of every room she enters. So even before any official comeback happens, the show may already be inviting viewers to imagine what damage Quinn could do if she stepped back into Los Angeles now. And once that door opens in the audience's mind, it becomes very hard to close it. One of the most compelling reasons Quinn could return now is Carter. Because timing matters in soap storytelling. A character comeback works best when there is someone on canvas emotionally exposed enough to make the return instantly meaningful. And Carter may be exactly that person. If Daphne begins facing infertility fears and starts spiraling under the weight of that possibility, her relationship with Carter could be pushed into extremely fragile territory. Even if Carter tries to be supportive, even if he says all the right things, that kind of emotional burden can create distance fast. It can create insecurity. It can create silence. And sometimes silence does more damage than conflict. That is where Quinn becomes dangerous. Because Quinn is not just an ex. She is a history Carter never fully escaped emotionally. She represents unfinished feelings, unresolved chemistry, and a chapter that could reopen the second his current relationship starts cracking. If Carter feels helpless with Daphne, if he feels shut out, if he starts carrying pain he cannot fix, then Quinn could become the kind of comfort that feels understandable in the moment and disastrous afterward. That is why Quinn's return would not need a huge setup to work. The emotional groundwork may already be there. And if Daphne senses that Carter is drifting, her own pain could intensify. Suddenly this would not be only about a medical struggle. It would become about abandonment, comparison, and fear of being replaced at the worst possible time. That is how a comeback turns into a disaster. Not because Quinn necessarily arrives intending to destroy anything, but because her mere presence could expose the weakness in a relationship already under stress. And once old feelings begin mixing with present heartbreak, the fallout can get ugly very fast. Another reason this theory is spreading so quickly is that fans know Rena Sofer's situation does not completely rule out a return. Yes, she moved to New York. Yes, her life is no longer centered in Los Angeles the way it once was. But the important point is that she has already shown she is willing to travel back for soap work when the right opportunity comes along. That alone keeps the possibility alive. And once fans know a return is not impossible, speculation becomes much louder. At the same time, the show also has another option, A recast. That may divide the audience, but it would not be unprecedented. Soap viewers are used to the idea that a strong character can come back in a new form if the writers believe the story is worth telling. We have seen the show make major casting moves before, and if the producers truly want Quinn back, they may decide the character matters more than waiting for the perfect scheduling window. That creates two different kinds of suspense. The first question is whether Quinn is returning at all. The second is who would play her. And honestly, both questions help the show. Because whether viewers are hoping for Rena Sofer's comeback or worrying about a recast, they are still talking about Quinn. They are still emotionally invested in the idea of her return. And in daytime television, that kind of conversation is fuel. It keeps the character alive before she even appears. Then there is the part of this theory that could make Quinn's return far more explosive than a simple romantic comeback: Remy Price. We already know Remy has some kind of mystery connection that the show plans to reveal. That means there is a hidden thread somewhere on the canvas, and naturally, fans are trying to figure out which character could be tied to it. Quinn is one of the more fascinating possibilities. Why? Because Quinn's past is exactly the kind of history that can support a twist like this. She has lived a complicated life. She has made reckless decisions. She has had secrets, enemies, blurred loyalties, and emotional extremes. A character like that can credibly be linked to someone unexpected without it feeling forced. Could Remy be a relative? Maybe. Could he be someone Quinn once protected, manipulated, or pulled out of trouble years ago? Also possible. Could he be connected to her through a buried chapter no one else knows about yet? That might be the most soap-like outcome of all. Of course, there is one big question hanging over the theory. If Remy were secretly Quinn's son or someone equally close to her, wouldn't Wyatt know? Probably, which is why the show would need a believable explanation. Maybe Wyatt knows something but kept quiet. Maybe he only knows part of the truth. Or maybe the connection is not as direct as fans expect. And that may be what makes this mystery so interesting. The best soap twists are not always the most obvious ones. Sometimes the answer is not that a character is the parent, child, or lover viewers first assume. Sometimes the real shock is stranger, more emotional, and harder to predict. So even if Quinn is tied to Remy, the nature of that tie may be where the real surprise lives. The title of this story is not just about Quinn coming back. It is about the possibility that her return brings a horrific disaster with it. And that is worth slowing down to think about. Because Quinn does not return to a calm canvas. She would return to a show already simmering with emotional instability, Daphne's fears, Carter's vulnerability, hidden agendas, fragile relationships, and mystery connections still waiting to explode. In other words, one strong spark could set off multiple fires at once. That spark could be emotional. It could be romantic. It could be family-related. Or it could be something much darker, a secret from Quinn's past that spills into the present and blindsides everyone around her. That is why this possible comeback feels so much bigger than fan service. It would not just be about bringing back a familiar face. It would be about injecting the canvas with someone capable of reorganizing multiple storylines at once. And Quinn has always been that kind of character. She does not simply join the drama. She reshapes it. If she returns to comfort Carter, Daphne may spiral. If she is tied to Remy, a hidden mystery may explode. If old enemies learn she is back, past wounds could reopen. And if Quinn herself comes back carrying secrets, then the disaster may not be something that happens around her. It may be something she brings with her. That is what makes this theory so addictive. Not just the possibility of Quinn returning, but the possibility that her return is only the beginning of something much worse. So for now, Quinn's comeback remains speculation. Nothing is guaranteed, but on The Bold and the Beautiful, a name like Quinn Fuller does not start buzzing again without getting fans to wonder whether something bigger is being set up behind the scenes. And if that setup leads to Carter's emotional collapse, Remy's mystery connection, or a whole new wave of destruction, then Quinn's return may not be a reunion at all. It may be the start of a nightmare. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And tell me in the comments, is Quinn really the one connected to Remy? And if she returns, who will suffer first?